Welcome to Fall Rise Give, a space where we invite you to dig into the real cause of your suffering, looking at opportunities for growth with a change in your beliefs, thoughts, and actions so you can be your true self and be inspired. Join us as we explore life's ups and downs and navigate the twists and turns, sharing stories of resilience, hope, and the transformative power of giving back. Whether you're looking for a change, in recovery, or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your go-to for candid conversations, raw emotions, and a whole lot of heart. Tune in and discover how to fall, rise, and give back on life's extraordinary journey. Welcome to number 23, Michael Jordan's number. It's Fall, Rise, Give, turning struggles into opportunities by being your true self and helping others. I'm bartender Bob, and my good friend is Kumar. You know, I was thinking about that. I mean, I'm thinking about how lucky it was that our cross have passed again. You know, you look at growing up, and you look at spending time with people, and how you basically with every piece of your life. I mean, you're going ebbs and flows of life. You go into this is my group of people. These are the only people that I have as friends. And then you get a little older, and these are my group of friends, and you get a little bit older, and pretty soon you've got all these groups of friends that are in different levels of life. And then sometimes you lead back and you weave back through life, and you're like, hey, this is a person that I probably should have been spending time with my whole entire life. And so I just wanted to say, and I know I feel like I'm getting a little choky here, but hey, thanks for being a part of my life, and thanks for being a good part of my life, Kumar. I do appreciate it, and it to me means quite a bit.
Yeah, me as well. I think it's good to reconnect with somebody who shares the history of schooling, adolescence, kind of know where we came from, kind of where we're at, gone through the journey. All these changes in life, Bob. We've gone through all these changes, and
Right.
we thought we are going to not survive them, and here we are. Here we are in 2024 on September 1st, almost 5 months after we started doing this. And I think we started doing this on March 31st. That was our first episode.
Yeah, we started on Easter Sunday, which I thought was kind of a weird day, where it's like, all right, we picked a date, we did it, and it happened to fall on Easter, and here it is. We're at number 23. We've done this now 23 weeks in a row. We haven't missed a week, which I think is pretty impressive that we've been able to, and you mentioned the word change. We've been able to change our lives in order to fit it in, and I think that's a big part of everybody's life. The things that you want to do in life are the things that you make time for, and the things that you check all the boxes in order to make that work. I always find it funny when people talk about how they can't do something. I can't get there. I can't do this. I can't come and see you play your game. I can't come and hang out with you today because X, Y, and Z. If you really wanted to do something, you make time and you do it. You make your you change your schedule in order to make something work for yourself.
Yeah, or anything that you want as a goal in life, right? So you want to, like you said, Michael Jordan didn't make his high school varsity team. So he changed his routine even more, started shooting more, started working harder. And obviously we know what happened to him. He changed his behavior and he changed his training, and now he's a superstar. I mean, he's been a superstar, obviously, the most popular basketball player of all time.
Well, one thing too about the word change is that change is inevitable. I mean, there's always going to be change. You can't expect anything to stay the same. You can have the nicest, most manicured yard in the world, and you spent hours and everything was meticulous and everything was weeded, and you pulled out all the dandelions and you got around the fence and the trees, and you got everything all done. And 25 minutes after you're done, something's going to change. There's going to be a leaf that's going to fall in that well-manicured yard. There's going to be a weed that pops up. The grass is going to grow. A branch might break. Something's going to happen. Something will change. And that's just talking about your yard. You look at everything else in your life and things change. It's the most simple part of our lives, is that nothing stays the same.
Yeah, exactly. There's a formula out there in physics that became popular, I think, in the 70s or 80s, and it's what the physicists talk about, is Z equals Z squared plus C. and the C stands for change. Two trees with the same DNA sitting side by side won't grow the same way. One will change because the sunlight or something affects it differently. And so I think life, we know, is death, taxes, and change are the three constants that are always going to stay. This
Right.
always going to be there. It's death. You always got to pay taxes at some level, and then you got to have change. And so change is inevitable. Change is something that can be scary, depending on the type of change. Oftentimes, when change is forced upon us, that's not the funnest feeling. And so change is a great topic for us to talk about today.
Well, so let's talk about changing things then, because in my line of work as a bartender, I see people come in and I see people, they want things, a lot of times they want things to stay the same. So they want to chase that same feeling that they had. So they're, maybe they start off and they're having one, then two, then seven, then pretty soon, but they're always chasing that thing because they want it to be the same as where it was. And I think it takes a lot of guts to say, you know what, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. I want to change my life and make it better. And that's why I give you a ton of kudos for saying to yourself and looking inside and saying, you know what, I need to change. I need to stop doing this. This is not good for me. This is not healthy for me. As you've mentioned in our conversation in the past, that you had a resting heart rate of in the 70s before, and now you've got a resting heart rate in the 60s. So that was, you change by working out, you change by stopping drinking, you change by changing your life and changing the way that you do things in order to make yourself, live longer, be healthier and happier. And you can see it. I mean, as you mentioned, 23 weeks ago, we started doing this thing. Just even the look on your face, I mean, you were vibrant and, you were much younger then, 23 weeks younger, but you know what I mean? You were, and you look now and, we've made these changes, these gradual changes in our lives. And I think for myself personally, it's been a better life. Things have been better because of the little changes that I've done in my life.
Totally, totally. Another quote that I want to mention is really pertinent to this change thing is, if you want to change the world, change the person in the mirror, right? That's a Mahatma Gandhi quote. I don't know exactly what he said, but if you want to change the world, change yourself first. And
Wait,
so it really comes down to it. We are consciousness at one level. We are a combination of our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings, and the consciousness behind all that experiences all of it. And so what's fascinating to me is if we change our outlook, if we change our attitude, we can change our lives dramatically in the moment. And over time, we can change our lives throughout the process. You could be on a journey. You could change the location of where you live. And all of a sudden, your world dramatically changes, like I did. I moved from India to Minnesota, and then I moved from Minnesota to Wisconsin to go to college. And then I came back home for a little bit. Then I moved to Seattle. And now I can't imagine my life outside of Seattle at all.
mm-hmm.
Hopefully, there won't be another change in there. But change is constant, and you can create a whole new world. I mean, Seattle and the Midwest are dramatically different, right? I got to go on a mountain hike last night. I didn't climb the whole mountain as much as I normally do. I gave up a little bit short yesterday. But anyways, that was a big change for me. First time ever I went on the same hike that I've gone on at least 20 times. I didn't climb to the top. And I have that 35 minutes outside of my home. I have mountains. I have water. I'm going to go to the islands today, later on, for the long weekend. And so you can change your attitude. We talk about the attitude adjustment program. And you can change your whole life by physically locating yourself from one place to another, or in your mind having different types of thoughts. You can change yourself to look at people differently, situations differently. And you can have a dramatically better life by changing your thoughts and your emotions around certain topics, relationships, work, health, recreation, all sorts of stuff.
When you mentioned "Man in the Mirror," the first thing that popped into my head was Michael Jackson. The song "Man in the Mirror" that he did.
Yeah.
So I Googled it while you were talking,
Yeah.
And man in the mirror, the phrase "man in the mirror," when you look in the mirror and see yourself, he wanted to say, if you want to make a change in the world, you should start with yourself. So it's basically the same thing that you were saying. And if you fight for what you think that's right, you'll make a difference no matter what, no matter how small. But you should start with yourself. And
Yeah.
that's truly what you said. And you said that was that was originally a Gandhi quote.
Yep. Yep.
It's pretty cool how we were able to tie in a lot of quotes and a lot of sayings and a lot of thoughts from many years ago, and how they're pertinent now, and how they have a way of making their way and weaving their way through the fabric of society even today.
Yeah. I mean, it's all universal knowledge and universal insights. And, we've been able to carry these knowledge through history, through recordings of videos, of audio, of books. And so we learn from the past, and we realize the more things change, the more things sometimes stay the same as well, right? Some source of knowledge, values, they may change here and there, but the universal truths kind of stay the same. Some of the ancient Hindu beliefs and meditation and all that stuff is now becoming really popular in the yoga and meditation world. But these are universal teachings that came off through a long time ago. Um, One of my family members just bought a Tesla this week,
Cool.
and not a direct family member. My sister and her family bought a new Tesla this week. And if you think about Tesla, the car, it's an electric car. It has a self-driving feature in it. It's not a self-driving car by any means. I think he likes to claim that he's Elon Musk. But Tesla, the scientist, is what I want to talk about for a moment.
Nikolai
He used
Tesla.
What's that?
Isn't it Nikolai Tesla?
Nikolai Tesla. Um, he was big into meditation and Hindu philosophies. He actually had a personal guru who was really popular at the time, and he spent hours and hours meditating and came up with all these inventions and technologies. And so it's fascinating now that the world is changing its motor vehicle system from gasoline and energies into electrical vehicles, and maybe gas or other sorts of things will go away. I don't think anytime soon, but the point being is there's a big change going on right now. And this guy who started this massive change inspired Elon Musk and other people who founded Tesla, the company, and they're making a major change in the world. And so through meditation, through practices of ancient yoga of the mind, as meditation is, these guys were able to go in and visualize and are able to come up with inventions that they came up with, almost 100 years ago, that are now coming to fruition in 2024, 2020, whatever the time frame being that these electric cars have been going on. But if somebody was to land from 1924 to today, they'd be blown away with the technology that's out there.
Oh,
Imagine we talked about
absolutely.
a couple of weeks ago in the self-driving car. I mean, that's freaky, right?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Or
Totally.
even this. I mean, I'm in Wisconsin, you're in Washington, and we're able to have this conversation like we're sitting on the same table having conversation and drinking our morning coffee together, I mean, just the fact that you can do that and have that conversation immediately. I remember when the fax machine came out and I thought to myself, "Oh my god, that is so cool." That you could write something on a piece of paper, put it into a like a copy machine, and pretty soon it's copied off somewhere else. I mean, that was cool. And now fax machines are a thing of the past. Nobody even knows. My kids or your kids, we ask them what a fax machine is, they're probably like, "Isn't it Google? You get fax from that, right?" And that's a fax machine.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, even things like that change. Have you ever had the opportunity to drive an electric car?
I've been able to sit inside one multiple times, but I've never driven an electric car. No.
So when we were in California back in February, we rented a car, and I think we went through budget or something, and the only vehicles that they had available, unless we wanted to pay double, were electric vehicles. So we got an electric vehicle, and the thing had good power, but it was a pain to try to find something to charge it. We went to one of those charging stations, it didn't work, and we went to another one. We had the wrong app because we had an app for the other one, and maybe living in a small town in Wisconsin where there's people drive trucks and diesels here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we've got that, and then we're out in California and we're driving this little small subcompact car that runs on electricity. But the thing had power. It was a decent ride. It was just weird to turn on the vehicle with a button. It didn't even make a noise. So, I mean, you weren't even aware that it was running.
Yeah.
Until you put it in gear, and it's not even a gear; it's just a switch rather than a physical. I got to move this thing into another gear.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I was walking this morning, walking a dog, and I saw this guy. He used to have a Porsche, and I walk by his house all the time. He's on this famous street in our neighborhood that's overlooking the Sound and downtown. Called, anyways, I forgot what it's called. I mean, I know what it's called, but I'd rather not say it.
Okay.
But on a famous street, he gets in. He's going to play golf this morning. I know the guy. He owns a textile company, and he bought a BMW SUV, i5 or something like that, IE5. And he turned it on. I was walking by the car at the moment that he turned it on, and didn't make any noise. I was looking for it because I have a car with gas in it and a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a little bit of noise, but his car didn't make any noise whatsoever. I was just listening to it today, and he went up half a block, turned around, and went right past me, and the car made no noise.
Yeah.
No noise whatsoever. And so this is how much society has changed. We're in this midst of major shifts in technology. There's a lot of talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and all of that stuff. But I've got a little story for you about AI as well in a second. Fascinating stuff what's going on right now.
Okay, before we jump into that, I got to tell you, since we're talking about electric vehicles and stuff, you had conversation with my stepdad Dave, and so Dave and my mom Kathy, they walk around their neighborhood. They live in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and I was talking to him the other day for my birthday, and my mom goes, "We saw a spaceship driving around on the street." I'm like, "What?" And they started explaining it was one of the Tesla trucks. It made no noise. It had wheels, and it looked like a spaceship. I'm like, "Mom, that's a Tesla truck." Well, that is just weird.
It is weird. It's weird looking. It is.
It's just weird. And Monique and I were talking about the fact that they have enough room for like 3 bags of groceries, and that's it.
The truck does? Is that right?
That's what she told me. Because she watched a lot of TikToks and said that there's videos of, "Oh, isn't that nice? You got 3 bags of groceries in your truck." I don't know for a fact that that's the case, but that's just that's what she told me. So let's get around to this AI thing, because I think that AI is so cool, and it's changing the way that a lot of people think, and it's also changing the way that things are advertised, the way that things are posted on Facebook, the way that our news is done. I'm guessing that a lot of the stories that are in some of the big major publications that are out there now are probably AI written. And I saw a report. I'll add on to what you have to say about AI when you're done, if you didn't cover what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to cover what you're going to say, but back in 1991, I was studying management information systems, which is kind of like computer science for business majors, in Wisconsin, in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And the senior year of the program, you're supposed to teach a class to your graduating class members. This is the class that you take in the final semester. And my topic was artificial intelligence and robotics.
So here it is, 30 some years. Yeah, 33 years later, here it is.
Here it is, exactly. And the question that we had to ask was, which one is going to win? Software, which is AI at the time that we thought, or robotics? And now, as you're seeing, it's combining into one, right? The brains is the artificial intelligence, the software that runs everything. And now it's making the robotics, which is a car, super smart, right? And all sorts of robots are coming out there. Even Tesla's got a robot out there that they're selling. or working on. But yeah, so it's come that far. It's been talked about for a long time. My daughter works for an AI based software company that wouldn't have existed um, had it not been for AI being so popular today. And it can scan all sorts of financial systems within your organization and spits out reports and things that helps you save money immediately. And so AI is being used everywhere and anywhere at the moment. And it's going to change the world even more. I mean, you and I go to Chat GPT all the time to research certain things. And so AI is artificial intelligence, but it's real intelligence to make our jobs so much easier. The hope is that it doesn't make our jobs so much easier that we don't learn anything or don't do anything by using our own brains. Because I think
Or they put things
ultimately
out to obsolescence, because I could see some jobs just going away because the computer's doing it for them now.
yeah,
Copywriting for one, and maybe even being an author, because you could feed into Chat GTP and some of these AIs little bits of information, say craft a story around this. When I was up in northern Minnesota with my dad for his birthday a few weeks ago, we were talking about AI and he didn't really understand what it was. I said, give me a name and a topic and let's make a children's story. So I don't remember what he said. Tommy the train, in northern Minnesota. And I put it into Chat GTP and it came up with a story about Tommy a train and how he's driving through and I'm guessing the next step's going to be animation that that it'll do, and also like illustrations, and pretty soon everything is just done automatically. No need for us anymore.
yeah, no images and all that. I don't think no need for us, but I think it's still going to be. It's like anything, computers were going to take over everything 30 years ago. That's what everybody was saying, but it's just. I think a lot of jobs, a lot of high tech jobs, are going to be in trouble with software because the first thing technology does is cannibalize itself. And so the more advanced things are going to replace the existing manual programming and things like that. You'll still need smart people to figure out what the programming should do, what the actual task needs to get done, and then need quality control to make sure it's done the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the labor world of technology will go away, just like manual labor went away with factories that are being automated and through robots and things like that. But yeah. So
Well, you
speaking of that, things changing around us all the time, and how are people dealing with it? Right? A lot of people are losing their jobs. You have lost your job. I've lost my job, and we had to accept the change. And the Attitude Adjustment Program talks a lot about accepting change and how to move forward. There's a great book that I wanted to quote as well, saying there's a book out there called "Who Moved My Cheese." Have you heard about that book at all?
Who moved my cheese?
Yeah,
Like
it's
like a grilled cheese sandwich cheese?
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
No,
Yeah,
I haven't heard of it.
yeah. I'll have to tell you a little bit about the book. It's written by a guy named Spencer Johnson. It's actually a motivational business book that takes maybe a couple of hours to read. It illustrates how people deal with change in their work and personal lives. There are four characters in it. There's two mice that go around in a maze, and somebody actually they're used to going through the maze and get their cheese, and now the cheese has been moved. So one of the mice has a hard time with the cheese, and he kind of gives up and kind of starves himself to death. The other one keeps trying and keeps going different maze parts of it, runs a lot of dead ends, and figures out his own way over time, and figures out the cheese. And now he's able to go through and feed himself. And so it's really what it's about is like when change is dealt to us, what are we going to do? Are we going to adapt to the new situation with a proper attitude and adjust our attitude towards that new thing? Or are we going to be in a place of a fixed mindset and kind of feel bad for ourselves that things aren't working out the way that I want to work out? And so it's really a great book to read. Who Moved My Cheese? If you're dealing with change, it's a great motivational book, and it'll take you an hour to 2 hours to read through the whole thing. It's a short little book. But yeah, it's amazing. The Attitude Adjustment Program talks about how do you accept change. The Serenity Prayer that we've talked about in the past is all about, you know, God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So really, it's all about when bad things happen to you, or it could be bad. You think it's bad, and you adapt and you change your mindset, and then from that mindset, you change your behavior, and then you change your experience, and you change your outcome. So change is a constant, and it's a beautiful thing. Sometimes things end up being better if you just give it a chance.
Oh, absolutely. Li- Listening to you explain that book, I think that it does a lot. It says a lot about the one mouse that actually went through and found, ended up finding the cheese. The hungriest person will do what they need to do in order to make it work. And a lot of the books that we've talked about and that you've talked about in particular are the person that wants it the most is going to have it, is going to make it happen, and is perseverance and dealing with the different changes and stuff that's thrown at you, and overcoming the obstacles in order to make it through to what the end goal is. And in the mouse's case, it was the food, but for somebody that's trying to change their life, it's the life that they ultimately wanted.
Yeah, and and I remember back in Harmar Mall, back in I want to say 2001, 2002, I was sitting there at the Barnes and Noble there. I think there was a Barnes and Noble at the time. And I remember talking to a couple of teenage girls who were going to high school at our old high school. And I ended up saying, "Hey, I went to Ramsey High School or Roseville High School. I graduated. I live in Seattle now, and I've got this company and all of this stuff." And I was asking them, what are they going to do for college? And what I noticed from that conversation was they had very little hope of a better future. Maybe they're coming from a lower income family background, or maybe not having enough mentors or whatever. But the thing that was missing was hope of and a desire. So once you don't have hope, you can't have desire. If you don't think you can accomplish something, you're not going to want to go after it. So this hope thing is really important. A lot of people don't have hope, don't think they can get there. So they don't even try. And so this hope thing is we always have hope. You always need to find hope through examples of other people that have done it. This is why we talked about Abraham Lincoln. This is why we talk about people who've gone through a hard time, who struggled, who overcame their struggles and who fallen and who rise and then give back. I think people who fall and rise again, which all of us can do, are actually the ones that give us hope. And that's why it's so important in our messaging when you go through a change and you've been dealt with a change, that you latch on to that hope that other people have done it. Other people have gone through major setbacks. Like we talked about Michael Milliken. He went to jail for 10 years. He was the top of the world, a billionaire, ended up going to jail and being embarrassed, and everybody kind of mocked this guy. And he comes back around after prison and starts another organization, starts another company. He rose again, and then he gives people hope that, hey, you can even go to jail for 10 years and come back. I don't want to use the example of Michael Vick, but Michael Vick fell as hard in the social American culture for the things that he did to dogs. And he went from top of the world in the NFL to the bottom, being disgraced. And he came back and played again and became a voice for, animal cruelty and voice for change in that world. So you can fall, you can rise, but the biggest thing you're doing is giving people hope. And once you have hope, then you can go after the desire to change something. That's what you need. That's why you need that example. That's why I think it's so important that to overcome change, you have to believe in there's a hope that somebody else has done it before. You can do it as well. And that's when you start the adaptability, going after what you want. But most people don't go after what they want because they don't have a hope that they can get there.
Or fear. They have fear. I think a lot of times that people will stifle themselves because they're afraid of failure. But as we've talked about, I mean, you need to fail in order to succeed. You know, I mean, when we
Right.
had Ralph Heath on a couple of weeks ago celebrating failure, it's all about getting up and taking the next step. I mean, if we decided when we were babies, I look at my grandchildren now. My granddaughter just turned 1 and she's learning how to walk. If she decided at that point, I can't do this, I'm done, and decides that she's never going to walk again, you know, where is she going to be? You know,
Yeah.
you just have to go ahead. And I think another thing too is that when you have change, you got to stay positive. You got to think about the end game. Maybe everything's not great right now, but and it might not be great tomorrow or 3 days from now, but next week it could be the best ever, the most fantastic thing ever. And don't be
But
afraid. And don't be afraid
yeah,
to ask
so,
somebody for help either. I'm sorry, but don't be
no,
afraid to ask
agree.
somebody for help. And we've talked about that in the past. I mean, even with you having a big job in a big corporation, that you said to your boss, "Hey, I'm having issues with this." Your boss helped you out, and I mean, that's that's a big thing. That's a hard thing to overcome, and it's a hard thing as an adult to sometimes say, "I need help."
I totally agree. I think that asking for help, there are certainly lots of people out there. So definitely that's a great track. When things go wrong, when you're dealt with change that you don't expect, you're disappointed, finding and looking for help. And I think there are certainly institutions in inner cities for people who are impoverished, people who have gone through a hard time. There are also for people who are successful mentors. And this is where I think the attitude adjustment program comes in as well. Like people who have fallen really hard, they can't even have a basic life because they're too drunk or too, incapacitated, whatever the word is, but
Incapacitated.
incapacitated to even live a normal life. They're struggling. They're super sick, and to be able to hold on a job, to have a place to stay, you can get help through the attitude adjustment program. Like we said, AA.org. The big thing is, and I remember talking to another inner city person in Seattle back in 2005, and I was talking about all this motivational stuff, and she's like, she was a leader in the community, a social organizer person, a social worker, and it was at a church event that we were talking about this, and she said, my people are struggling with hope. They don't even have a hope that they can get to a particular thing. There's no mentors for them in their family. There's nobody that can even start out with saying. So the biggest thing that I believe is that if you can find hope for a better future, with that hope comes desire. Then that desire will get you to change your mindset around by reading, by talking to people, getting the help. And then from there, then you can start looking at thriving and not just surviving. But you need a little bit of hope to get past this change. And then from there, you go into what you really want in life. And then you go make it happen. Then you show that you're really hungry, then you're determined, and your perseverance and all of that stuff. But I think I didn't plan on talking about it today at all, about this thing called hope. But I think hope is the first step to overcome a disappointment often brought on by some change in a job loss or a relationship loss or whatever that is. You have to have a hope. Don't feel so sorry for yourself. Don't be sullified in your sorrows that, hey, this is the end of the world. It's not. This too shall pass, right? Everything
Mm-hmm.
changes and nothing ever stays the same. You could meet somebody tomorrow and that could change your life. You could meet a situation. You could be walking down the street and maybe see a job opening. And if you wanted to be a chef at a restaurant, you can see an opening there. Or you can see a big company announce that they're coming to Austin, Texas, like Tesla did. All of a sudden, there's going to be thousands of jobs in Texas, and you were in a manufacturing, and you thought you had no hope there. But so life will constantly change. You just have to adapt to it. But I think you have to start out with hope. And go ahead.
I was just going to say you have to have your eyes open too in order to see some of these things because there's constantly things being thrown at you. You've got a barrage of things coming at you at all times, and you got to filter those things out, but see the things that can help you to change your life to be a better place.
Totally. You got to be. like we talked about, you got to have a certain level of mindfulness, certain level of self-reflection, right? And saying, I want something better. Do I have hope? You always have hope because other people have been through a lot worse than you have.
Absolutely.
There's people in war situations. A woman was stuck in the bathroom for like weeks and months in Africa, and these guys wanted to kill her. And or the Anne Frank house, where Anne Frank in Amsterdam had all these Jewish people hidden in her home, and so for months at a time, I don't even know if it was years, but the point being is that there's always hope. There's always somebody there willing to help you, somebody else who suffered more than you have, that has come back and that has risen. That's why this topic is so important to me. So passionate about this topic of when you fall, you gotta rise. You gotta rise up. But I can't just tell you to rise up without you having hope. You gotta believe in yourself. You gotta go find a way to get that hope somewhere. Somebody similar to you. And I think the attitude adjustment program for people who are going through recovery, people who are going through alcoholic addiction, that's what really helps them a lot. But people stay in that program not because they need to stop drinking. They already stopped drinking. They go in there for their mental sobriety and the spiritual sobriety and all of that good stuff. So I think that starts with hope. There's a better way to deal with change. Hope, desire, perseverance, adaptability, all those things come through.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall, Rise, Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also, consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall, Rise, Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.